Here we go. This is it. The final keys to victory for the San Francisco 49ers to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58, slaying the dragon, and why it's different this year. And Patrick Willis for the Hall of Fame. We're going to find out soon if he is in. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. Appreciate you so much. And thanks for subscribing on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Should be getting some news soon about Patrick Willis, the NFL Honors Program happening later Thursday after we record, and we do want to make a last-minute plea. And the reason we believe, Croc, and I assume you also do believe that Patrick Willis belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So
should have been the first ballot. Like, what was the holdup? Dang near every year of his career, he was an All-Pro. I mean, from the start, like you drafted high, you got high expectations. He came in, he dominated right away, and his career was cut short due to injury. But they let in other guys like Terrell Davis. Well, I don't think Terrell Davis had the career Patrick Willis. Now he had the postseason accolades with the Super Bowl MVP, but clearly y'all can tell I'm a little fired up by this because I don't like disrespect to Patrick Willis. People comparing him to Luke Kuechly. Kuechly, terrific linebacker. I just always felt like Patrick Willis was better. And I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. I think it's ridiculous. Patrick Willis should have been first ballot Hall of Famer.
And really, you can just follow the lineage with the all-time great linebackers in the NFL. And it was Ray Lewis, who's a Hall of Fame guy, and he passed the baton to Patrick Willis, who's a Hall of Fame guy. And he was the best in the league, made 6 of 8 All-Pros in his career. He was 7 of 8 Pro Bowls in his career. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was awesome right out of the gate for the 49ers after he was the first-round pick in which was 2007? No, 2007. Yeah, 2007 draft. And just an unbelievable player, unbelievable person. Met him before. He's a great dude. And he was a modern-day linebacker when there still wasn't modern-day linebackers. There weren't those guys that could just fly around the field and pick up a wide receiver in coverage and still meet you in the hole. There was a lot more power to the game. This was still an era where you had to meet a fullback in the hole, right? This is an era where there was still a lot of 250-pound linebackers out there. And while Patrick Willis was big and intimidating, he wasn't 250 pounds. He was 230 pounds, and he could fly. He ran 4.3s at his pro day at Ole Miss. He was just a phenomenal player, and he was the best player at his position for a good chunk of time in the NFL. And I love the way he left. He left on top. He didn't want to leave after. He didn't want to hang on and collect stats where you could look it up and say, okay, who's the Hall of Famer? Who has the most tackles in NFL history? Oh, here's Patrick Willis now because he hung on for 15 years and now he's a Hall of Famer. No, he left on top like Calvin Johnson did, like Barry Sanders did. And he didn't want to become slow Patrick Willis on the football field. He was always fast, ridiculous, amazing Patrick Willis. I don't know if he'll get in because of the longevity, but he deserves to be in because he was the best. And you can't hold against him that he left when he was on top. You're muted, Croc.
He was literally like the best.
Yes.
For an extended period of time.
Yeah. There was
we're not even talking about just 1 year, right? Because that was kind of the thing with Frank Gore. It was like Frank Gore was a really good back, but just like for 20 years, right? But even then, I don't think Frank Gore in any given season was like, this is without a doubt the best running back in the league. Like Patrick Willis was the best linebacker. Then the next year is like, oh, who's the best linebacker in the league? Oh, it's Patrick Willis. Then the next, Patrick Willis, like every year he's the best linebacker in the league until his feet start hurting.
Right. It was like, okay, the conversation was never about who's the best linebacker in the league. It went from Ray Lewis. Once he passed the baton to Patrick Willis, who's Patrick Willis? You said, who's the second best linebacker in the league? That's what the conversation was. It's much like the way people talk about Patrick Mahomes right now. Patrick Mahomes is one of one. He's the number one quarterback in the NFL. Okay, who's number two? That's where the conversation starts. That's what it was like for Patrick Willis for most of his career. And Tyler in the chat says top 5 all time. And the chat, Don says, love how fired up Croc is about Patrick Willis. Yeah. Patrick
a whole
Willis
lot that gets me all like super fired up on the show. Usually I'm, chill, calm, and, I try to give, but I just think it's ridiculous.
The voting is weird too, because you only get 5 people in every year. Some years, maybe 5 shouldn't go in. And other years, maybe 12 guys should go in. So you should be able to vote 12 in. So it's really weird gatekeeping the way they do the Hall of Fame voting. And I hate the Hall of Fame for that reason, because the Hall of Fame is very personal to people, and it shouldn't really matter as much as it does. But it's such a pin on a career, and it's such a defining moment for careers. And it's tough for players that probably deserve to get in and never get that call to be in the Hall of Fame. But the process for voting, the process for getting people in, I feel the same way about the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame. In some ways, it's just really flawed the way the voting process is and how they figure out who belongs in the Hall of Fame year to year. And by the way, this is the best year for some of the guys on the ballot to get in, Croc. It's going to start getting a lot harder, because we're going to start having Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's and a whole bunch of really good players, especially quarterbacks, that are on the ballots really soon. And if you can only get 5 players in every year, some of those are going to be quarterbacks now every year, because there's a really good group that's going to be crowding those ballot boxes for the next few years in Hall of Fame voting. So this is the best time for guys like Patrick Willis, or for guys like, especially if you're a guard like Jerry Evans, right? He was a really good player at his position. He was the Patrick Willis of guards for a long time in the NFL. There is, Devin Hester. Personally, I would put Patrick Willis in. I would put Torrey Holt in. I would put Andre Johnson in. I would put a lot of those people in ahead of Devin Hester, because Devin Hester was a specialist. He just didn't impact enough games. Super fun to watch, but what do you have, half as many career touchdowns as someone like Andre Johnson? Fun to watch, video game player, but he impacted so few games. How do you put a guy like that in the Hall of Fame?
He impacted every kick. They literally did not want to kick to him. Like, he's another guy that I feel like.
What happened when they didn't kick to him?
Well, but his presence when they did, right? Like, think of the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl. It's like, hey, don't kick to Devin Hester. Then people are like, hey, make sure you don't kick to Devin Hester. And they're like, oh, surely they won't kick to Devin Hester. And what they do, they kicked it to Devin Hester. And what he do? Took it to the crib. Like, you want to talk about game changer and just his presence being felt every time he stepped on the field. He didn't have a legit position. He tried cornerback. He tried receiver. But as a returner, I think there has to be an area where you let some specialists in like him, because he was so special. Like, it was even for the guy Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson, I think he may have broke like the record for most returns or whatever, but Hester, when he did it, it felt like his impact was huge. Maybe it's the teams, because he played on some Bears teams that were, is that kind of good, but Rex Grossman's your quarterback, so it's not like you have like a whole lot of offense. So you need more from him, but you are winning games. He feels like a Hall of Fame returner, in my opinion.
If there was a separate wing for specialists, and we could start talking about more kickers and punters and other guys that are specialists that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, then I'm with you, and you put them in first ballot in that wing. But you can't just not cover Andre Johnson, who's on the ballot this year. You can't just say, oh, we're going to take Torrey Holt out of the game. We're going to kick it out of bounds, and he can't touch the ball. No, Torrey Holt's on the field. You got to cover him every single play. And he had 3 times as many touchdowns in his career as Devin Hester. And that's just touchdowns. And those were the really big plays where Devin Hester impacted, was when he would take it to the house. Other times he's just, it's a normal kick return, right? And not a first down, not a, so look, he was a fun player to watch, but when you can only take 5, I'm putting Patrick Willis, I'm putting Andre Johnson, I'm putting Torrey Holt, I'm putting all these guys, Julius Peppers, I'm putting them all in ahead of Devin Hester. Separate wing. No, I think we agree. There needs to be a separate wing for it, right? And then you don't have to compete with other receivers and corners.
Just imagine this game, 49ers playing against Kansas City, and 49ers have Devin Hester back there to return, and everybody in the world is like, don't kick it to this guy. And that opening kickoff, the lights are flashing, and then boom, he just cribs it. Like, that was his impact. People were terrified of him, like literally terrified.
So few plays over the course of a game, over the course of a career. You put him in for his career accolades. And how many did he take to the house in his career? As awesome as he was.
More than everybody else.
More than everybody else who did that, but not more than an average career running back.
But he's not a running back.
Or receiver.
He's the greatest returner of all time.
Yeah, which to me is not a Hall of Fame thing. Cool. You're the greatest long snapper of all time. Congratulations.
Is Tucker going to the league? I mean, going to Hall of Fame?
We're not going to carve a bust of your face and put you in a museum. Good job. Great long snapper. You snapped for 20 years until you're 40. What's a bigger play? A botched snap on a field goal to win a game, or be a great returner?
Is Justin Turner going to the Hall of Fame?
Justin Tucker. See, you can't get the name right. The specialists don't belong in the Hall of Fame.
Justin Tucker. He's going.
He might go. And I would put him in. You know how many more points Justin Tucker scored in his career than Devin Hester?
Who are teams more scared of? They had the game plan and scheme around kicking to a guy who impacted a good team.
And you can successfully do that. You can't scheme around a kicker who's going to nail it to win the game from 60 yards. You can't take him off the field.
I'd say
Hester out of the game completely.
I go as far as to say that Devin Hester was a bigger reason why the Bears went to the Super Bowl than Rex Grossman.
Also not a Hall of Famer. All right. Hey, Patrick Willis belongs in the Hall. We can agree on that. Let's talk keys to victory. How the 49ers will beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker dealer. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. And yes, you can find killer last minute deals even on the big game. And use that code Vegas100 for $100 off. All in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's the easiest way to find tickets. I've used it for concerts, used it for ball games. Here in San Francisco, I want to go to the Giants game tonight, right? I'm gonna take the ferry over to the yard. Boom. Last minute tickets, even up to an hour after the game starts, you can find tickets on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use code Vegas100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase of other tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Here we go, Croc. Keys to victory. It's 49ers Chiefs. We've talked a lot about this game this week and thought about it, and there's different angles and this and that. But there's one big aspect of this football game whenever you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw it 4 years ago. We're going to see number 15 on the field, right? And it is, as it's put on the background here of our YouTube, slaying the dragon. And it starts with doing everything you can to limit and maybe not stop. You don't have to stop him completely, but he's one of one. He's Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. It starts there.
It definitely starts there. And before we got on here, I was joking. I'm watching NFL Network, and Patrick Mahomes says that he has his Super Bowl routine. And I'm like, wow, how much of a flex is that to have a Super Bowl routine, right? I'm pretty sure you have a nightly routine, something you do every night before you go to bed. You shower, brush your teeth, whatever, you get in bed. He goes to the Super Bowl so much. It's like him just going to sleep. Like, this is his 4th time in 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is. And he's always in the conference championship. Crazy and nice little flex there. But I'm more curious really about the 49ers routine. I just heard a little nugget that last week the 49ers players had 3 days off. And then they're doing a lot more of their preparation or whatever in Las Vegas, as opposed to the Kansas City Chiefs, who did all of their work and preparation last week. And then now they get to Vegas, where there are distractions and everything, but their work is already done. Do you think one way works more than the other, or do we just have to kind of wait to see the game and see who might be more right with their approach to that?
Yeah, well, the 49ers have been here too. And this isn't Kyle Shanahan's first Super Bowl. So if he thinks this is the best routine for his team, then you got to trust him. And obviously, Andy Reid has been to the Super Bowl quite a few times himself, and he's won them. And so he went the other route. I kind of like the idea that you rest during the bye week and you put in work during the game week, because that's how it would go during the season. And it's more like a normal week of game prep and a normal process. And on top of that, this is a business trip week. So you remind the players, like, hey, we're still doing normal practice. This is practice week. We're hitting, Wednesday, they had pads on. This was a full, real practice at the UNLV squishy field. They're hitting. They have pads on. This is a real deal practice. Just a reminder, this is a business trip. Whereas I think you could probably get lost potentially mentally if you are having a lighter week of work and you're into everything else that happens in a Super Bowl week, especially a Super Bowl week in Las Vegas.
I can see that being the case. I am curious to see which guys just come out and just look a little bit sharper. And for both of these teams, like you said, they have been there. The last time 49ers were here, it was against Kansas City. I think there's been a lot of roster turnover, especially for the 49ers, a little bit more than KC. KC, they were just in the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl last year. So a lot of new players for the 49ers. Curious to see when they, get up close to Patrick Mahomes. A lot of them got to play against him last season and kind of what that looked like. What is the philosophy this year? Because, again, the thing that scares me most is not the 49ers team. Like, I feel like when I look on paper, and even when I think about just the matchups in my head, it feels like the 49ers have the advantage pretty much almost everywhere, just about, right? Especially when they're cooking on defense. And I think we see the defense the last 2 weeks, how they played in the first halves, and I think we kind of think about defense kind of falling off a little bit. But for most of the season, the defense has been very, very solid. Yeah. Very solid. So I think right now, heading into this game, because of the last 2 weeks, it feels like Kansas City's defense has the advantage. But 49ers, they've been plenty good enough. But the one thing, and I keep hearing about the quarterbacks and all these different things and how people are saying, well, the 49ers are a better team. But Patrick Mahomes, like, how much of a gap in the sense of play is it from Mahomes to Brock Purdy? Because Brock Purdy has played very well, but it seems like no matter how well he plays, we're still having that conversation about the guy on the other side of the field. Yeah. Well, how good does Purdy have to be for that to not matter?
And the guy on the other field deserves that. And we've seen him beat other quarterbacks that are elite quarterbacks in the NFL as well. And he does it every playoffs. Like, every season they end in the championship game or the Super Bowl, period, during his career. But when you look at the entirety of the offense, you're not crazy if you said, okay, Kelsey and Mahomes. Like that's hard to beat. That's Stockton Malone. Like they're automatic, right? Pick and roll. But when you look at the entire offense and you say, well, what about Brock Purdy plus George Kittle? A pretty good tight end. Well, hold on. We got Trent Williams over here. You got Deebo Samuel. You got Brandon Ayuk. You got Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk. Now which offense do you want? That closes the gap quite a bit. And does it overtake Patrick Mahomes? This isn't the same. And really that's one of my keys, because these teams have flipped. It was all about the 49ers defense against Patrick Mahomes and a scorching offense in the Kansas City Chiefs 4 years ago. Well, the 49ers had the better offense this year. The numbers all point to Brock Purdy this year. And if it wasn't for the Chiefs defense, then Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have gotten here this year. So things have really flipped. And my last thing for you real quick on Patrick Mahomes, Croc, and I got some other keys here. Do you go after him? Is it do you want to pressure him as much as possible, or do you rush him with care to try to keep him in the pocket?
I think you kind of have to go after him, because he will eat his own up. He's very comfortable doing that. And if you're not coming at him, and we understand with the 49ers in the defensive line right now, not getting the most pressure, right? So the last thing you want him to do is start extending plays. You don't get to him quick. He starts getting on the move. We know that's when he's going to be most lethal with Travis Kelce. So I would say make him make these quick decisions and have to trust that the others, right? Because, like we said yesterday, we're putting a bracket on Travis Kelce. We're putting our best corner on Rashee Rice. So now the Richie James of the world, the Miko Hardman, the Valdez Scantling, and Jonah Gray or Noah Gray, whatever, like Watson, like those guys, how much do you trust those guys? So if I'm the 49ers, I definitely feel like, okay, let's try to get him a little uncomfortable, right? Make him have to trust that these guys are going to be in their spot.
Next, there's
real quick, one second.
Yeah.
Ian Sharp in the chat, he said Bucks had success going after him. The difference is, and this is not to make an excuse for Kansas City in that Super Bowl, but they were missing their entire offensive line. Like every guy was hurt. So I think they are healthier right now. They are potentially missing a key player there.
Yeah,
but not like the whole line like they were. Like I don't think they played in that Super Bowl with any starting offensive lineman. It was really weird.
Let's talk about that. Injury report from Thursday is out, and some more keys to victory. And one guy the 49ers have to hit, I think, even more often than Patrick Mahomes. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Nissan and their new line of Rogue, Pathfinder, Armada. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue, perfect for city drives and great escapes. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play, all built right into a 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. And how about the 2024 Nissan Armada? Will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. This episode also brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is nearly here. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to turn every game-changing moment into 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Say, if Patrick Mahomes throws for more than 1 yard in the big game, you can win on Prize Picks. So they got specials there that are easy to hit on as well. And all you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players, pick more than or less than on their Prize Picks projections, and watch those winnings roll in. And again, with as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 on Prize Picks for the big game. All you got to do is download the app or go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's promo code LockedOnNFL. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Croc, just real quick, it just kind of hit me. You said something about Devin Hester being the greatest return man of all time. Would you rather kick the ball to prime Hester or prime Dion?
Devin Hester is the greatest returner of all time.
Oh, I'd kick.
I'm a Dion guy. I love Dion.
I kick it to Hester before I kick it to Dion. I think there's a lot of players that could have been great returners, and they're too valuable to put back there, like Patrick Willis. By the way, remember Patrick Willis's first play as a rookie 49er, first opening kickoff rookie season? He was on the coverage team, just annihilated a dude on coverage. It was like, yeah, I don't think that dude's going to be playing much. We're not going to see 52 playing in kick coverage very often anymore. Unbelievable. Let us know in the chat, by the way, if any information leaks on Patrick Willis while we're live here Thursday night before the announcements for the Hall of Fame. Can't wait to hear if Patrick Willis gets in. I want to see the 49ers hit Travis Kelce, Croc. Disrupt him. Don't even let him into his route. Rough him up a little bit. Be physical.
So a lot of times you'll hear, defensive guys, use the term reroute a receiver, right? Like where you kind of want to knock him off of his path a little bit as he's getting in route, especially with the 49ers. They run a lot of zone. So the best thing to do is get some hands on him, make him move off of his path a little bit, change kind of his path to wherever he's trying to get to. And then hopefully you have someone there that's ready to catch him after that. So you talk about roughing them up. I don't know if I've ever seen him get hit hard enough to where it really messes him up, except for like, an ankle or something like that. And I don't wish injury on anyone, but definitely doing something that kind of deters him along the way of whatever route he's running.
In the chat, Mahomes is a check down king this year. He's checked down more than Brock Purdy has this year. And I think that's we talked a little bit about it yesterday. I think that's one of the aspects to this game. I think the 49ers and Patrick Mahomes, they're going to play it close. They're going to play, they're going to try to run the heck out of the ball. They're going to throw short passes. They're going to try to let the other guy, the young guy, Brock Purdy, make the mistakes first. And we've seen 0 turnover worthy throws from Patrick Mahomes during the playoffs. And so we're going to continue to see that. And, his average depth of target well below what Purdy's was this year. And I think on defense, they're going to try to force the 49ers to throw, much like they tried to do in the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl. And I think that's the game. And Ian says it in the chat as well. Run defense for both teams probably decides it. And I think Kyle Shanahan's offense against Steve Spagnuolo's defense is huge in this one. The 49ers are going to have to score, and they might have to keep scoring just to make sure that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a chance to come back. And I think it's less likely that Mahomes, not that he's not a better quarterback, he just doesn't have Tyreek Hill out there. It's not an offense that's built as much to come back against a team like the team was in February of 2020. So for that reason, the 49ers, if they can get out early, I think it'll be a lot better off. They're going to try to run the ball, a lot of Debo, a lot of Christian McCaffrey. But if I know Steve Spagnuolo, then I think he's going to do what he has to do because he knows that's coming. He's going to try to limit it. So that might create space. And that's Brock Purdy unleashed. And we know Kyle trusts Brock Purdy. So is it going to turn into a Brock Purdy game card?
We'll see. You don't want it to turn into a Mahomes game in the sense of letting him throw downfield. And you talk about throwing, average depth of target and things like that. Like he's kind of forced into that. If you watch how teams defend Kansas City, they're having 2 safeties high. So yeah, okay, if you're going to play everybody back, then I'm going to take what you give me. But if the 49ers creep those safeties up, and especially if they're showing that pre-snap, he will go down the field, even if he's throwing a guy like Vela and Scantling. Like Scantling, they'll give him opportunities down the field. Now, his biggest thing is, will he catch it, right? But it's not that he's a check down because, all of a sudden I want to be way less aggressive throwing the ball down the field. It's when teams play against me, their safeties are too deep for me to attack downfield. So with the 49ers, I continue that philosophy. Keep those safeties back. Now, what I would like to see for Kansas City, if they continue to, in my opinion, be kind of disrespectful to the 49ers downfield passing game, where teams are playing their guys really tight. They're about 10 to 12 yards depth for safeties. They're jumping intermediate routes. We saw it on one of the first plays of the Green Bay Packer game. I think it's made the field a little cloudier for Brock Purdy. And we heard Greg Cosell talk about how, Brock has not played necessarily well as he played in the regular season, played extraordinary in the regular season. What has been the defense? I wonder if defenses are starting to play a little bit tighter, crowding certain areas, and now it's forcing him to make certain throws down the field consistently as opposed to a shot play, right? Because you have plays that are designed to be shot plays, and then you have plays that turn into a shot play. And he said, you know what? You guys want to be disrespectful and play the safeties down against me? Okay, Brandon Ayuk, let's convert some of these to go routes, and we're going to take some shots. I think that might loosen up the defense. We saw him do that against the Lions down the left sideline early in that game. I wonder if that's what that was about, where it's like, oh, the Lions playing tight. Okay, let's throw a shot down the left sideline to Brandon Ayuk. He had to play defense on it a little bit, but I like just the thought of potentially backing guys up. I don't think it would turn into a Purdy game, though. If anything, I think this would be a CMC game. And if I'm the 49ers and I'm Kyle Shanahan, hey, you know, injury and all that, that's all out the window now. Deebo Samuel, you are getting 5 to 6 carries on top of however many touches you get in the screen game, in the passing game. Christian McCaffrey, if Christian McCaffrey touches the ball 25 times, you will not hear me complain about that at all, whether it's a mix of running pass or just all run plays.
Justin Reid is a really good player, and he comes downhill fast. And I wonder if they can try to use that aggression against him on some plays too. You know, the play action game. You get somebody over the top of where he's at if he's a little too quick to trigger downhill against the 49ers, because you know they're going to have eyes on Deebo, eyes on Christian McCaffrey, try to rally and tackle those guys. But if Steve Spagnuolo, who plays a lot of man coverage, if he's got his, you know, they play a lot of too deep with man coverage, and the 49ers will run the heck out of them, the ball on them if they do that. And so that's where the game inside the game happens. That's why I'm so intrigued. Kyle Shanahan versus Steve Spagnuolo when the 49ers are on offense. I really have a good idea of how I think it's going to go when the Chiefs are on offense and the 49ers are on defense. With one more key on that note, Croc, for me, this is my last one. 4 more quarters to hoist the Lombardi. 60 minutes of football. The 49ers haven't played 4 good quarters of football in the entire playoffs yet. You got to play 4 quarters in this one. You got to start fast. Chase Young has got to be out of the gate a monster. Nick Bosa's got to be out of the gate a monster. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw flying around, limiting that, shortening that space that they have on the defensive side of the ball, because there is space, and they're asked a lot of those 49ers linebackers. And if you sit back and allow Patrick Mahomes to pick you apart and find holes in your zone coverage, it could be a long day. So maybe even, I don't know, maybe even a little more man coverage from the 49ers in this one, Croc.
I would like to see a little bit more man coverage. Again, do some man coverage. The only thing that's tough with man coverage, and this is why some teams don't like to run it as much, it depends on the type of quarterback you're playing against. Patrick Mahomes will not shy away from taking off. And we saw that in the Super Bowl last year. You know, I think the difference between, let's say, Mahomes and Brock Purdy, right? Like Brock Purdy can scramble. Patrick Mahomes will scramble to run and really utilize that. He'll make a quick decision to do it, and it's a part of his game. And in the Super Bowl last year, he had a big run that really kind of broke the back of Philadelphia outside of that phantom holding or pass interference call. But he had a really big run late in that game that really hurt Philly. When you play man coverage and everybody turns their back to the quarterback because they're man turning to their receivers, you definitely leave yourself vulnerable to a quarterback that will want to run. So that's the one thing you kind of have to worry about a little bit if you're thinking like, all right, we're going to go man coverage, especially in key situations. Patrick Mahomes utilizing his legs, and he's not playing on one leg this year like he was last Super Bowl. I'd say the key to me is if it comes down to Moody. I don't think you want it to come down to a rookie kicker, but with the way that he's been talked about this year, it almost feels like he's destined to kind of end up being a hero, right? Nobody trusts him. It's been up and down. You know, we look at him. Well, who is it? You're not Robbie Gould, right? Robbie Gould didn't miss a kick in the postseason. I think Moody has had a little bit of bad luck. He had one blocked, and then he's kind of, missed a couple other ones. But I think this is his time. Like, this is a moment where you're going to need him, and you're going to need him to be good. This Super Bowl, it may come down to the final kick. And if so, I think Moody walks away looking like the hero in this one.
And Chiefs kicker Butker's really good and doesn't miss a lot. I do get that feeling, though, Croc. It's going to come down to it's going to come down like Purdy and Moody, right? Just because everyone's talking about Mahomes being great, we're not sure about Purdy. It's going to be all about the run game. And so what's going to happen? It's going to turn out being Purdy and Moody to be the heroes for the 49ers. Yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait. It's going to be a really good one. 49ers, Chiefs, Sunday, for it all. Super Bowl 58. And, of course, Croc and I will be back post-game right here, win or lose, to break it all down, hopefully win. And that's going to be a party. The quest for 6 continues Sunday. Croc and I back post Super Bowl 58 right here. Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.